Nice place to live. Team Point, which president officially named it the White House?
Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt is correct.
Yes.
Is that team two?
Yes.
Team 2. Okay, wait. Every single time we're doing it
1901. And to keep up
Instead of this.
that white appearance, it's touched up every year and repainted every 5 years. With almost 600 buildings and about $150 a day. It's a particular shade of white. Since it's sometimes called the People's House, let's take a look around. Be careful though, there's heavy security. You can see and
If Jake Paul can make it in, I can make it. Jake Paul's been in. He went to the bathroom.
That's great.
the security.
Still think Jake
As well as the anti-aircraft
punched him 80
punch.
times.
There are 5 floors to the White House. The one you don't see is the sub-basement, which has mostly mechanical rooms and storage rooms. And then there's a basement above it that peaks a little bit out above ground level. And as you can see, that has a lot of service areas, but also
There's a
some
chocolate
receiving rooms.
There's a carpenter's.
Then the first,
Carpenter, you
Carpenter.
got a shop there?
Oh my gosh.
then the first famous level is the state level, the first floor completely above the ground. This has the famous entrance hall and
My
the
picture's right there.
long main corridor. And this is the one, the state dining room and the east room where a lot of receptions happen. Then the second level is the main residence for the family of the president. There's the well-named Yellow Room. The Lincoln bedroom, which Lincoln used as an office during his presidency, and the Queen's bedroom, where 5 queens have stayed on visits to the White House.
Trump talked about it.
The third floor has a variety of other family and guest rooms, so altogether 132 rooms, including 35 bathrooms, 28 fireplaces, 8 staircases, 3 elevators installed later. 412 doors, 55,000 square feet, 67,000 if you include the wings. This makes it currently the 34th largest residence in the United States.
Alex,
Yeah.
what's the diet kit?
Diet kitchen?
Oh, what does that mean?
It's where they go to diet.
Yeah, and
It's
it's
only
a
diet
kitchen.
in that room.
Peyton?
Most people are on the.
The windows are bulletproof and shatterproof and are always closed.
Can we go bowling? Can we just take a class field trip, break into the White House and go bowling on the shooting?
The house was designed.
Alright. I take that as a yes.
Looking at the history of it by an Irish architect, James Hoban, after a building in Dublin, which is where the Irish legislature meets today. George Washington laid the cornerstone in 1791. It then took 17 years to build. At the time it was finished, it was the largest residence in the country. But no longer is. John Adams, the first president to live there, said, "May none but honest and wise men inhabit it."
May none?
I heard rumors that there was a crook there.
Thomas Jefferson, working with another architect, added the colonnades along each side to mask some of the stables and storage that were often done there. And then came the War of 1812. The British burned the executive mansion.
Dang it.
It was reconstructed enough by 1817 that James Monroe went back to
man.
live in it. The exterior continued to be added on to. The semicircular south portico was added in 1824, and the north portico 5 years later. The history of the White House sort of mirrors the history of the country. Running water was installed in 1833. A furnace in 1840. Gas lights instead of candles in 1848. The first telephone, 1879, during the Hayes administration. And the first electricity, aside from the telephones, installed in 1891. But the President Benjamin Harrison and his wife refused to turn the switches on or off themselves out of fear of electrocution. Teddy Roosevelt's family had 6 kids, and they made the residence crowded enough that he had the West Wing built so that he could move some of the offices out of the White House in 1902. And then Taft expanded the West Wing in 1909, adding the first version of the Oval Office. The joke was that Taft was so large that he just lay down on the floor and that, of course, is an mean-spirited joke.
That's not funny.
In 1927,
Deacons.
the attic was converted into more living quarters. And then the East Wing was finished at about the same time as a reception area for social events. But in World War II, a lot of offices were moved out there to house more staff, and it continued to be expanded. It was Rosalind Carter who established the office of the First Lady in the East Wing in the late 1970s. In the late 1940s, President Truman's daughter was playing the piano on one of the upper levels when one of the legs of this impressive piano went through the floor. The original brakes, it turned out, were stressed to their limit because after the British burned the building, while it was refurbished, it was never really reinforced or redone. So for the next few years, the White House was gutted, and the new steel structure was installed on a new concrete foundation. The Truman stayed at Blair House, a nearby hotel where a lot of guests, Washington stay at least, highbrow guests. And so as part of this remodel, the Truman balcony was added on the outside, and central air conditioning was put in. So when the Trumans returned in 52, they were more comfortable than ever. When Mrs. Kennedy arrived at the White House in the early 60s, she was disappointed. She thought it looked like it had been decorated from a thrift store, and that it didn't have a lot of sense of its own history, so she oversaw redecoration with historical themes and period furniture, and the White House became a sort of living museum, complete with its own curator. And then she held a sort of national tour for the redecorated White House. About 80 million people watched as she showed the country in place. So there's the whole thing. There are quite a few amenities there. You've got a staff of about 100. There's the chief usher, who's largely in charge of the staff. There are 5 chefs, a head housekeeper, and of course many assistants, a florist, a calligrapher, well, more than one calligrapher, a barber, a carpenter, a plumber, electrician, groundskeepers. The upkeep costs about $4 million a year. The most intense day is Inauguration Day. It's known to the White House staff as Moving Day because they've got about 5 hours while the ceremony is going on to ship out all the stuff that the old president and his family bring in and install and revamp and redecorate all the new stuff for the new president and family. So that's quite a day. The Obamas reportedly spent $1.5 million as they moved in. The Trumps, 1.75 million, I don't know about Biden's. The kitchen can serve about 140 people if it's a full dinner, and thousands if it's just appetizers. But they do these things frequently. Films have been screened at the White House since 1915, which is pretty early in the history of film. Team Point, what was the first movie?
Great train ride. Train ride.
The Nation is Right.
Embarrassing. Give me that team point.
Birth of the Nation. My favorite. My sister knew the band that performed Constantinople this morning. No one else was jumping up to volunteer. I asked, how did you know that? She said, because my brother scares me with that song. Constantinople. That's the one we're talking about.
Istanbul, Constantinople, that's Istanbul is Constantinople.
No.
We could leave on
And then there's the song. Like it's
But leave on inauguration day. Just really
Yeah,
late.
he's gonna scare you. Yeah, that's one. In any event,
no, we're driving.
yeah, Birth of the Nation was a very forward-looking film technologically.
What in the morning? Why is it gonna be empty?
That's why she played it. And a very backward-looking film socially. Reactionary film. In other words, the KKK was good guys.
Wasn't that the one Woodrow Wilson played?
Yeah, that's the one.
That should be a team point.
Because Woodrow Wilson was the worst president in the history of the United States.
He was. I agree.
I'm reading the biography.
He's top 5.
Top
Woodrow
five?
Wilson's top 5.
Top 3 worst presidents.
Okay.
Top 3.
He's top 2 in my book. Trump is number 1.
It's crazy.
Didn't he tried to pass an executive order to kill all people with like Down syndrome and stuff? Like to execute them. Yeah.
Yeah, Wilson's out there. James Buchanan.
He's also dead. A lot of people say Jimmy Carter. We can't let him pass that. Just heads up.
Well, it was FDR who had what had been a cloakroom turned into a theater. And so there's still a theater where first-run movies were shown.
He also served 12 years. Diminishes.
So what was the first movie seen by Donald Trump in his first administration?
Fight Club.
Home Alone 2.
What was it?
Oh, I said I really hope it's Little Rascals because he's in it. Like,
That's
Lucy's
true.
done this with that. I
Home
don't know.
Alone 2. No, it wasn't.
I already said that.
Fight Club.
Elf.
Gladiator.
Finding Dory.
Are you kidding? He's a Family Guy.
I bet he loves that.
Dude. Little baby Dory with the big eyes.
President's also
Is that on your Hear Me Out cake? It's on mine.
FDR also had a lap rule
How could-
built into the West Wing.
His legs didn't work.
But he could
And
still
like to swim in it with
doggy
his glasses
paddle.
on.
With his the fruit.
Jackie Kennedy didn't
How
like
does-
the looks of it, so she had murals painted along the walls. LBJ sometimes would adjourn meetings to go for a swim and would expect everyone in the meeting to go swimming with him.
LBJ's a creep.
That's so real.
Hey, hop in, guys.
Water's not too cold.
During Nixon's presidency, it was covered over, and it's actually where
I'm a born fellow.
press conferences.
What?
It was built over. The people are still underneath, and there's a trap door where you can go down. It's drained.
Darn it.
It's filled with all the cables that reporters need.
Oh my gosh, wait, that's a real thing.
Fake news. Just drops them in.
Just about every member of the press has gone down there sometime or another to look around, and they usually sign their name somewhere on the wall.
That's so cute.
Bring back.
They like put their
Cool.
hands on the wall.
Speaking of the press office, Tom Hanks, during a visit to the White House in 2004 to screen one of his movies, noticed that the press had only a beat-up old coffee maker, so he sent a nicer one, and then replaced it with a new one in 2010, and then again in 2017, Donald Trump's first year, he sent a $1,700 commercial espresso maker
Ooh.
with the note, "Keep up the good fight for truth, justice, and the American way, especially the
Didn't
truth part."
He gave that to
Openly.
George W. Bush.
This was to the
Not Trump.
Well, that he said 2004.
Oh, I thought you said
Oh, yeah.
2014.
Truman installed the bowling alley first.
That's Nixon.
And
That's
then
Nixon.
Okay.
had a bowling alley installed under the north portico. And there he is using it. Ignore the foot foul there.
He's a crook.
He's a crook. He's a
Not
cheater.
Fowler. Although Gavin, I think, is a fowler.
Yes.
Not you.
Other game.
Other guy.
Yeah,
Big gap.
Who's an idiot?
Big guy.
that is a few last things on our tour here.
What is she
On
doing?
the top floor, you might
Giving him a
notice a
likeness.
room called the Solarium.
Reagan looks
Is that
down.
Riz?
Used in a lot of different ways.
Chad, I think. Never mind. I'm gonna cease my thing.
Did I get any points? I'm just getting down the tax.
Oh, look at that.
Mamie Eisenhower's bridge parties were held up there. Kindergarten for Caroline Kennedy. Hangouts for LBJ's teenage daughters. The solarium is where Nixon told his family he was going to resign. There was a study room for Rosalind Carter. It's where Mrs. Reagan was told her husband had been shot. And it was also a place for the Clintons to play board games. When you're the president, you can have things fixed up as you like. So for whatever reason, again it's LBJ here, he said he wanted a shower with really good water pressure.
LBJ's a creep.
That's so
And
real,
the
though.
plumber thought he had fixed that up.
Sorry, LBJ's a creep still.
Would be good enough. And Johnson went in and said, no, it's not good enough. I want it as good as this hotel over here. So the plumber went over to that hotel and thought he'd done at least that good. Well, in any event, what Johnson wound up with was multi-heads up and down the thing. And the plumber said it looked like a car wash. And one day when the president was gone, he said, I gotta try this thing. And so went in and turned it on, so he got plastered to the wall, just blasted out water.
LBJ would like
The
that.
president.
Yeah, he would be.
I do not
I
like
didn't
that.
know he swung that way.
I do not like LBJ.
Sadly, probably not. I haven't received confirmation there definitely is either. Well, up on the third floor, the bedroom was converted into a game room with billiards, ping-pong. Now it has even more, a golf simulator, which.
Oh, I have one of those.
And Mrs. Trump upgraded.
I wonder which president put that in.
It's about $75,000 worth of golf simulator. Hillary Clinton had a sitting room converted into a music room.
Look
So
at
her
him go.
husband could have a place to practice the saxophone where she couldn't hear it.
Practice saxophone, huh?
And sometime in the 90s, another room up there was converted into an exercise room for George W.
What the?
Good
Or no, I
Dope.
think Clinton and W used it later. Well, it's not a bad place to live, and it's not a bad workspace either
Get my credit.
in the Oval Office. Once again, LBJ had a small box on his desk with two buttons on it. One was labeled coffee,
Ice cream.
the other was labeled Fresca, his favorite diet soda. And if you pushed either of those buttons, within seconds, an armed aide would appear with the desired beverage. I don't think this cartoon quite got it accurately.
Pretty good. That sounds about right for right now, except it's ice cream. Doge, I think.
Donald Trump, if you look closely at his desk in his first term, had one for Diet Coke. On a silver platter.
Is he a Utah mom?
He is blonde. He's really blonde.
As far as I've been able to tell, President Biden hasn't had a button.
No,
He has an ice cream one.
button, as according to James Gordon.
Does he have a button?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
interviewed
ice
him
cream.
and he's like, does this give you an ice
I
cream?
knew he ate a lot of ice cream.
And he goes,
Vanilla and chocolate chip.
2 seconds later.
Chocolate chip.
Chocolate chip.
Well, we'll see if the second Trump presidency changes from Diet Coke.
I don't know, will RFK allow it?
Now it's hippie stuff. There are all kinds of sensors and caches of weapons and more. Tunnels to the South Lawn into the Treasury Building, tunnels connecting the east and west wings to a bomb shelter. Supposedly a secret panel in the Oval Office that leads to the basement, and many other tunnels rumored. But lately, one of the more interesting developments has been the Presidential Emergency Operating Center. First built during World War II, somewhere under the East Wing. It's where Vice President Cheney and First Lady Laura Bush were taken on 9/11. And President Trump was also probably taken there when protesters outside the White House grew to alarming levels in 2020. But it might not be the original one they were taken to. There supposedly was a new 5-story bunker built somewhere north of the West Wing between 2010 and 2012. So it's not entirely clear. This may be confusing the new and the old PIAC. But it's there somewhere. As I mentioned in the quiz, some have said they've heard the previous owner of the land on which the White House is built, a man named David Burns, introduce himself. I'm David Burns. Some said they saw Abigail Adams hanging laundry in the East Room. Mrs. Lincoln said she heard Andrew Jackson stomping and swearing. And a variety of First Ladies. Grace Coolidge, Eleanor Roosevelt, Lady Bird Johnson reported seeing the ghost of Abraham Lincoln.
I don't know if I want to go there anymore.
Pretty nice yard, 18 acres. Teddy Roosevelt installed a tennis court. He and his friends would hang around it so much they were called his tennis cabinet. And it's been improved since then. Eisenhower was a serious but not a terribly good golfer, had a putting green. Gerald Ford established or had built an outdoor pool which he swam in regularly.
Like just somebody covered up with an indoor one.
Yeah. Who was it? Nixon. What a.
Horseshoes were put in by the first George Bush, and he organized tournaments twice a year among his staff. And Elizabeth II gave him silver-plated horseshoes at the end of his presidency. Bill Clinton installed a jogging track.
Why is he wearing short shorts?
Look.
George W. Bush tore a ligament jogging, and Barack Obama used a treadmill instead. And there's a strange episode. Ronald Reagan used to tell about how when he went to his ranch in California, he'd get in the habit of picking up some acorns. And then when he got back to the Oval Office, he'd leave them on the windowsill for the many squirrels that are on the White House grounds. And they seemed to enjoy that. They'd come and get those. But then one time he came back and hadn't remembered to pick up the acorns, and he was sitting at his desk. He felt a little strange, so he turned around and looked out the window, and there were squirrels on the sills with their paws out the window, as if expecting, what are those acorns? If the grounds aren't good enough, then you've always got your presidential resort. What's that called?
Mar-a-Lago.
David is right, although the future president has his own private resort. there it is. It's named after one of Eisenhower's children, 125 acres in Maryland. It was established earlier than Eisenhower by FDR. And presidents have used it not just for relaxation, but for relations. So FDR fished with Churchill there, and Carter negotiated with leaders of Israel and Egypt there. And George Bush Sr. pitched horseshoes there in Gorbachev. So it has purposes in just one. Transportation,
The beast.
Cadillac One, over 21 feet long, armored retractable footboards for the Secret Service. Each one costs about $1.5 million. The doors are so heavy, the president cannot open them from within. And the whole thing weighs as much as a tank. It has a tear gas cannon and carries several units of the president's blood type, in case that's needed.
That's actually
Give
kind
it
of
a
crazy.
try.
It's about
That's kinda
5
cool.
miles a gallon.
That's like my car.
We have the Marine One helicopter, which can fly about 150 miles an hour, also armored and has an anti-missile system. What's that miles? I don't know what that one is. It's how many gallons per mile.
Per
And
mile.
then there's the big one, Air Force One. FDR was the first president to fly extensively. He flew around with a C-54 Skymaster. That was the, is that in that plane?
Yeah, they have it in the Air Force Museum. You can go and tour all the past on Air Force Ones.
Which Air Force Museum?
The one in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I didn't know you were talking about Hillary.
Hey, we can make this stuff.
Well,
Weird.
Maybe
Not to
the
eat.
Air Force One.
And then
Can I
it
guess?
keeps
Do you
getting
think Trump will give us right back? Like a little flag?
Oh, here's your chance to ask him, I'm just in the Air Force Museum. What was the nickname of FDR's first presidential plane?
holy cow.
Close.
The
I
holy
bet I
cow?
could.
Farther. Actually, you're closer.
Holy
The
cow.
sacred
I bet I could
cow.
give us a right back thing. If I could. Yeah.
So this was the plane
I think I found ironically lost my team like 4 points.
Air Force
I see
One
him
was
keep
first
reaching
used
over.
in 1953, that
I'm
designation. But a variety of planes have served as that. So something like current Air Force Ones are 747s, 5 stories high, about a city block long, and over 4,000 square feet of space.
For like 7 people.
There's a bedroom suite, a shower, a treadmill, satellite TV, but then a conference room, staff offices, media room. It has 87 telephones, 6 bathrooms, and an emergency surgery room. So much stuff that it can handle only 76 passengers and 26 crew. You can watch first-run movies. It has its own gold and white china, gold boxes of M&Ms and other snacks. George Bush Sr. said, the thing about Air Force One is they don't lose my luggage. It can fly halfway around the world, and with mid-air fueling and storage for hundreds of meals, it can stay aloft for weeks at a time.
If James is
Of
getting
course, for presidents, there's enormous prestige, and many politicians and other people would love to be seen near Air Force One, be invited to fly on Air Force One. You can score some points with transportation like that. I don't know about the gallons for this, but it costs about $250,000 an hour to operate. Different presidents have different preferences.
Air Force One.
And so it was said, Ronald Reagan had a certain mattress that had to travel with him. Wherever he went, the mattress went with him. So he could have a consistent sleeping surface.
Had to be the same, because he wore it in already.
Shaped like his body.
How do you think he
Reagan
slept?
was notorious for
I love
eating in
Reagan.
places and never paying.
Oh.
Meals open, walking out. I guess when you're president, you expect someone to pick up the tab. As far as other perks, you get Secret Service for life. Your children get it to the age of 16. Well, maybe longer now.
Old as
People who have
Baron.
children would still have it. You get premium health care. Walter Reed Medical Center, finest doctors. The treatment President Trump got for the coronavirus, when he got it in his first term, would have cost around $650,000. And you get a nice pension, about half your salary a year. Plus, there are unofficial benefits. If you're a former president, you can charge pretty high speaking fees. A number of publishers will compete to publish your memoirs and will pay you millions of dollars for it. So, Harry Truman's probably the last former president who didn't know how he was going to make a living after being president. He hadn't made a lot of money in his career, and he wasn't corrupt. So he really wasn't sure if he and his wife had enough money to get by in there during their last years. It turned out all right for him. He was the first living president to get a presidential library, and so he'd hang out there a lot and surprise visitors when they came in, answer their questions. The former presidents have made as much as they wanted to be made. And so, for example, Bill Clinton wrote 2 books in the 6 years after his presidency and made about $30 million from them. Hillary Clinton made almost $11 million from her book. And you can do what you want to a large extent. Jimmy Carter will win the Nobel Prize after being president for his diplomatic and humanitarian efforts, and usually former presidents get involved in some kind of humanitarian work one way or another. At least these days they do. One other perk of being president is you're a celebrity these days with all the coverage you get. So even students, even local students, may try to imitate you years after you're gone. If you ever find yourself in a public situation and it seems like there's some gesture you should make and you're not quite sure what it should be,
Hit the Nixon.
Nixon is not bad. Full extension if you're going to do it, though. It can't be.
See me walk in the aisle in graduation, just
I do that during my graduation.
Hey.
Are you giving a speech?
When I give my speech, I'll do it too.
Older observers may have some concerns about someone doing Nixon if they actually remember the details of the Nixon presidency.
Those are geezers.
Now take out one piece of paper per team.
alright. You got it. You got it, done.